Hi, everybody. This is what I worked on this week, is I made this. And my favorite part is the cone. He hits a cone on the left side there that goes flying. I thought I did a really good job on the cone. Like, the rest of it's cool. Anyway, my name's Paul. I designed and built websites for 15 years, and now I build furniture. I run a company called Afternoon Design and Build. I want to talk about the tools that I use to prototype stuff. And for a lot of what I do these days, it's a lot of woodworking. And more recently, I've been doing a lot of cabinetry and built-ins and stuff like that. And the prototyping tools that I use are not really new or novel, but I'm combining them in a way that I think is kind of cool. It's been really useful for just trying out an idea before you have to buy anything, because you can just try a bunch of ideas, see how many shelves looks like, whatever it is, before you buy or build anything. So the two tools I use are Polycam, which is a phone app, and Blender, which is a 3D modeling and animation tool that I'm sure a lot of people have heard of or used. It's been around for a long time. So the gist of it here is that I take a 3D scan of a space, and then I prototype and model the furniture, in this case my dining room table, in the space. And then you can, of course, put nice lighting in it just to make it look kind of real. It's fun. I actually started doing this years ago, even before this table, because there's like spatial big problems that I had I want to try things out before, you figure out. So like in our backyard, I didn't know how big of a deck to make because it's a weird space, and I just wanted to try some options. So this is like the 12th version of the deck that I made over many months, as I was just like, oh, I don't know, it could be wider, whatever. That's what I ended up on, and that's what I eventually built. Or, this is on the other side of our house. I wanted to see what a fence would look like. You get the idea. My office, I didn't know how many shelves to put there or how I should do that. So I scanned my office, tried a bunch of things. That's where we ended up. And this last one's kind of hard to understand, but that's my garage. And I wanted to see what it would look like when I knocked out part of the wall. It turns out, it looks awesome. So I did that. And not all these, that's the deck, and then, those are the shelves, and I did knock out that wall. That's cool. Sometimes it's just trying a thing out. I don't want to see if this could fit over there. Well, kind of doesn't. Whatever. I just think it's fun and really useful to just be able to try something in the context of the thing the place it's going into. For the 3D scanning part of this, I use this app called Polycam. It's free. There come some other apps that do something similar. There's one that I think Epic makes called Reality Scan. And some of them just take a bunch of photos and they kind of reconstruct a thing from the photos. Polycam does things a little different. And if you've ever been on Zillow or whatever, this is how they do the dollhouse view of a house. They walk around. I'm sure they use better cameras than your phone, but this is kind of the same idea. And I think even within Polycam, you can go into house mode, say I'm in a room, scan the whole room, walk to the next one, and it can then kind of piece it together the way that it is on, Redfin or whatever. But this is kind of the same tool, and Polycam, like I said, is free. The way that it works is that it uses the LiDAR sensor on, the Pro iPhones have, that's what the little black dot is. It's a LiDAR sensor, which is like a depth and ranging thing, shoot lasers. But it uses the depth information and a bunch of photos of the space. So as you walk around, you can see it kind of painting in the different shapes and the different things as you walk around. And then the app is combining all that stuff into a textured 3D mesh, just right there. Takes a couple seconds and spits one out. But this is the photogrammetry part. That's what this is. This is taking a bunch of photos, kind of smashing it together into a usable 3D object. And on the right, that's literally just a screen capture of my phone and what it looks like when you're doing this in whatever space. Now, the cool part is that all those scans are at one-to-one real-life scale. So you can scan, that's my living room, And when I bring that into something like Blender, it's that size. It's the real size of that space. So if you start prototyping or doing something in there, it's a little lumpy and looks kind of dreamlike, but it is actually the size of that place, right? And that's really useful. So I have a couple tips for better scanning here. I always tell people that you don't really want to scan all the walls and the ceilings, because then you're just going to make yourself a box that you got to deal with. And if you're not comfortable, editing a mesh and ripping it apart, that's a whole problem. So if you just kind of scan the part you need, and like you can see on the right there, I didn't scan the ceiling or some of the walls because you kind of need to get in there to do something in it. But that's kind of, yeah, and also like, don't rescan stuff because then it like starts layering, it's the whole thing. But that's kind of what it looks like. So on the right, that's a Blender window with me dragging in. When you drag in that object, that's what it looks like. You can turn on the textures and look at it. So that's kind of what we're seeing here. This is the scan with a prototype in there. You can see that's just the shape. And again, of course, tried a bunch of versions of this table to end up on that one. And then you can put in nice materials and lighting. I actually even put, it's kind of cropped out, but at the top there, that's the light fixture I ended up buying. I just found out the size of it and put it in there to see what it would look like in the space above the table, and then faked in the nice lighting to kind of get an idea of what it would look like. So there's the real thing. And it kind of changed a little bit when I went to build it, like I made it a little taller or whatever, but that just happens when you take an idea and you start making the thing, like the reality of it kind of does shift around a little bit. So Blender is a free tool. It's been around for a long time. It can do a lot. And the way that I use it is a little unusual. This part of the thing I do in Blender is not really a typical use case. Many people use Blender for just 3D modeling and animation, stuff like that, but people that do woodworking typically use like a SketchUp or a Fusion 360 or any of those actual CAD tools that are much more precise and parametric, all sorts of stuff. So I understand that Blender is really not the perfect tool for 3D modeling, let's just say woodworking, just because it's imprecise, it's kind of sloppy in that way for that kind of workflow. But for me, super fast. You can make something really cool in like no time, which is awesome. So the main tip here with Blender is you can, inside of the Blender scene, you can set the scene units to say like, the space is inches. And then everything you drag in, when you drag in the scan, when you drag in a cube, those are shown to you in inches. So you can actually see the real dimensions of that thing. And like I said, the scan's 1-to-1. So when you put in those things and make them 10 inches deep, that's what it looks like in that space. That's cool. So yeah, there's a lot of extra stuff in Blender. There's sculpting tools and a video editor for some reason. But it's been around for 30 years. There's tons of stuff in there. You don't need to know really most of it. So here's some extra fun stuff that I do to make these renders look the way they do. I found these shaders that, no, it's ridiculous. So they make, it's basically simulating the wood grain all the way through the shape. So then you can rotate it to make the end grain look correct, which is ridiculous. Like, that's so cool. But it's like a detail you put into your thing to make it look like it's actually made the way it's made. And of course, there's different species and all sorts of stuff, but I think that's really cool. Another thing that I do is I add realistic lighting. So in this case, this is a render of my kitchen where I had ended up building those green cabinets there. But if you look at the countertop, the light from the window is reflecting off of the countertop in the way that it kind of does really, like in real world. Yes?
Just out of curiosity, are you using an EV or cycles?
This is cycles to get the really nice stuff, but you can get there with EV. It's just kind of, it's a little different. So just the main thing here, just to the real magic trick is you just put lights where the windows are. So there's area lights, which are big rectangles, pointed inward where the windows are. I can kind of see, it's kind of hard to tell, but that's what gets you to that effect of the lights looking the way they do in the place. And then, of course, with cycles in Blender, you get the really nice bounced lighting and the shadows, and everything looks real and is sitting in that spot. And so I think, like, I don't know. I think it's such a cool thing that you can just kind of, I keep saying it's easy, it's not easy, but it's like a thing you can turn on and do, which is pretty cool. So I'll just show you the whole process here, which is, we're going to start with the scan. And this is just the scan straight out of Polycam. You just dragged it into Blender. This is what it looks like. Now, I'm moving the camera so everything else lines up, but this is just a scan. You can see there's like a desk there, and it's kind of lumpy and weird. My aunt was in the corner, and I had to remove her. But what I typically do at this stage is I will clean it up a little bit. So like sometimes it doesn't come in exactly north-south. You got to turn it. Sometimes the walls aren't perfectly flat, and if you need to do something to the walls, you might just want to squish it flat or move them or whatever. I usually will recreate a wall if it's an important thing that I need to work around. But mostly, I just squish stuff out of the way. You can just go into edit mode, select what you want, squish it out, move it out of the way. I'm just going to be building on top of this. So now, here's the rest of the scene and a bunch of stuff. It's just a big built-in over here. And then a bunch of props. Like I find these chairs and plants and stuff online. And then you get into the materials, which doesn't look really great yet, but you get the idea. Those are those wood shaders that I was showing you earlier. And then here's the real lighting. And that looks awesome, right? And the thing I wanted to kind of cover here is that you don't need it to look like this to get something useful out of these tools, right? Like this is a fancied up thing to sell a project. You just need cubes. That's that scan with no materials, no lights, nothing. Just a couple of cubes in there, and you could see how big that main shape is and see like, oh, that depth doesn't seem right, or whatever it is. The top half could be wider, whatever it is. And that's the thing, is like, I think this part is the useful bit. And I think it is useful, and it is intimidating, and we will get into Blender because it unfortunately has a reputation for being very difficult to learn. Now, I'm just going to quickly Google, is Blender easy? Let's see here. Okay, steep learning curve. Generally considered difficult for beginners, not great. Due to its, okay, well, you get the idea. It's not a good look. Anyway, so I think it's time for a hopefully brief aside about learning Blender, or really anything for that matter. Now, if it wasn't obvious, I love hobbies. I love learning new things. I love going way deep on a thing that I care about because I want the thing to look a certain way, or I'm excited about whatever it is. I think a lot of people here probably like that too, because we're all in tech or adjacent to it or whatever it is. But learning is really difficult. Trying something new is also really difficult. Nothing takes the wind out of your sails like getting really excited to try something and being bad at it. I know, that's happened to me all the time. And so to combat this, I've kind of come up with a few ways to manage this. And I, of course, screw this up all the time, but I thought it would be nice to try to explain the process here. So number one, start small. Starting small is super important when you don't really know how difficult something is, because if you come in hot thinking you're going to animate an entire movie, you're not going to. But the bigger thing is you're going to be really disappointed because you had this huge goal and you're just like, oh, that's what I'm doing. I'm making a whole movie by myself, and you're not. And that's okay. But it's a way to kind of crash out and be disappointed and don't think you can do it because you couldn't do this impossible goal. Now, in 3D at least, one of the things people always get caught up on is trying to model a human face. Now, modeling a human face is really hard. It is like people try it right away, they fail immediately because it's such a hard thing to do. And the kind of maybe unintuitive thing about this is that, or counterintuitive, is that to attempt to model a human face, you should at least be able to draw a human face, which is also very difficult. Now, Now, I'm not making fun of any of these people. Like, this is funny. Like, everyone thinks this is a funny thing. But, like, I have been there. I have made unintentionally bad choices or tried to, take a big swing and it doesn't work out. In fact, here's the first thing I made in Blender 10 years ago. Thank you. I fired it up and was like, you know what? I'm going to model an entire character, rig it, and animate it. No way. Like, absolutely not. This was like a mess, obviously. It looks terrible. But here's the thing. I kept going. And this was 10 years ago. And then in the last 10 years, I kept making stuff. And this is like, I've learned so much about Blender and animating stuff. And some of it's pretty stupid. Like, this is a garbage can running next to an everything bagel. I spent so much time on that bagel. Who cares? It's so stupid. But it was fun. And at the beginning, I was making a lot of food. So like that birthday cake and the pizza, whatever it was, I just focused on making food because it was a small thing that was achievable. And it was like, well, I know if I made this food look good, who cares? Move on to the next thing. But it was like kind of an intentional choice to not take that big swing. Like, I went insane making that city down there at the end there, but that was not day one. That's fine. Like, yeah, starting small, super important. Number 2, have a goal. Now, this is kind of maybe a little counterintuitive after number 1, where I was telling you not to animate a whole movie. But you need something that you want to do, because otherwise, you're not going to learn a video editing program without a video to edit, right? You need something you want out of the thing you're learning. And this is about Blender here, but it's not about just Blender. It's anything you want to learn. If you need to have a thing you want to finish, instead of just like, oh, today I'm going to learn Premiere. For what? Like, you're just not going to learn Premiere. Anyway, the cool thing is, I think we live in a time when there are tutorials for everything. Everything I've learned about Blender or woodworking or anything else, I learned from YouTube. Like, it's just all YouTube University all the way down, and that's cool. Like, if you run into a problem with rigging or lighting or something or how to fix anything, you can look it up, and some guy will probably poorly explain the thing you need to do, but it maybe will help, and it'll get you on your way, and that's cool. So I think, having a goal acts as kind of the North Star. It's like, that's the thing I'm working toward. Even if I got stuck on this thing or this didn't work out, you have a thing you're trying to do which leads you on your way, and that's super important. Number 3, lower your expectations. It is very disappointing in a lot of different ways to do something for the first time. Nothing's going to turn out the way you wanted it to, but that's what it's like to learn stuff. Lowering your expectations takes the edge off of that disappointment. Learning a new thing isn't going to be your new career tomorrow. You're just trying a new thing. You got to start somewhere. That's such a classic thing. So, you're going to be bad at this, and that's okay. I am giving you permission to try anyway. Now, I didn't mean for this to kind of go this way, or spiral into this whole thing about creativity and learning and all that stuff, but I obviously care about it. I do have a quote here that I think about a lot, which goes, dude, sucking at something is just the first step to being sort of good at something. Which really resonates deeply with me. So, but yeah, that's it. Thank you.